What's up, guys? Quick video on another piece of Saturn symbolism I found in a TV show. I'm not even sure what show this is, some anime. I'll play the clip and I'll talk more about it, but this guy, Chronos is Saturn to the Greeks. He's the Saturnian Greek Saturnian god. It's also the god of time. There's a lot of ways you can look at it. But just think about it. And it's also, the planet Saturn is the astrological symbolic representation of the psychology that's motivating or driving or behind whatever the new world order is. Whatever that is to you, like global government, along with a million other things that it represents. But, so the point is, listen to what this guy says, and he belongs to a group called the Chronos Corporation. Anyways, I'll play the clip, and I'll come back.
No, you probably thought Chronos was simply a secret organization, but we are very public. Classmates, politicians, ambassadors. It is an international community all linked through the clandestine operations of the Chronos Corporation. A simple matter like the attack on the school is easily covered when key positions in the media and the police are controlled by us. We're everywhere, we're everyone. The Earth is now within our grasp, a possession of Chronos. And now, Mr. Kukumachi, we have you. And you're a fool if you think you can ever get away. And you should know this. You are like a wild animal lost within our city, waiting to be snared. An animal far stronger than humans, but one who can never adjust to its new world, lost and howling, wandering aimless, looking for your own kind. But the city is your cage and Chronos your keeper.
So, I hope at this point you guys can kind of like figure out the bigger picture without me telling you everything. But there's so much you could say about that, and it's so obvious. Like, that's insane. When I saw this, I thought that was insane. Okay, so this guy, he's a representative. I don't know too much about the show as a whole, but like I said in other videos, I don't need to watch the whole show or a movie or a video game or read the whole story to understand the depth of a scene and its symbolic value. A lot of people kind of, like, I'm telling you a big truth through an anime, and a lot of people will think because of the format that I'm giving it to them in, which is an anime, they think I'm not telling them anything of significance. And you need to get around that if you're going to get better at learning the truth. That's not like me judging you or anything. It's just like, things aren't going to always come in the form that's like most tasty for you, most appetizing. You just gotta have to kind of just keep, know some basic principles to look out for across multiple contexts. Anyways, now that I got that out of the way, this guy he's a representative of the Chronos Corporation. He says he owns the police, the politicians, ambassadors. He's saying, the world is now within our grasp, in possession of Chronos. Again, the main thing I wanted to focus on in this video that's different than my other videos is what he says to the hero, obviously the protagonist, this guy, the guy that's trying to stop it, is what he says to him about how he's basically not going to be able to exist in the environment that they're creating. Like, it'll basically chew him up and spit him out. These values that he's carrying with him aren't going to be compatible with this system that they're building. And I already feel that if you're looking for the truth and you haven't felt like that before, I don't think you're looking hard enough. And the worse, the tighter the grip of this system, and the more pervasive its psychology and values are, and the more adopted it is by the general public on a lower level, the more you're going to be ostracized for it and outcasted for it. The Christians talk of it, obviously I'm not saying you have to look at it through a Christian lens, and I'm not necessarily saying Christianity is the whole truth, because there's a lot of, like, dirtying of those teachings, and any Christian will openly acknowledge that to you. They're not going to sit there and tell you the church institutions are perfect. But they talk about, you know, persecution, and in the days, in the end days, you know, that persecution's going to return, and you're basically going to have to make a choice between being like accepted by this system and people and being ostracized for it and outcasted and excommunicated. And one of the biggest punishments that the church had in the back in the day wasn't even just like execution or whatever. It was excommunication. That's one of the harshest punishments you can do to someone, is basically make them a social outcast. It's really, really, from someone who spent a lot of time by themselves, it's really hard to maintain your character, your sanity, your happiness when you feel like everyone's turning their back on you. And it's kind of ironic that everyone's turning their back on you, because this guy, the hero, Christ, whatever, he's like sticking up for the positive qualities of humanity and the meaning of the bonds that you share with people. And this guy doesn't believe in those things, yet so many people are willing to jump on board with this guy. And it's like, don't you have people that you love? Like, don't you know what I mean? Like, doesn't that mean anything to you? Like if there was a, to use a court, like a court of law example, if there in humanity was on trial for being like irredeemable, irresponsible, ignorant, apathetic trash, Christ would be your lawyer. He would be the guy defending you, right? This guy would be the prosecutor. Chronos would be the prosecutor. And again, you could look at him simply as time ruling the world, but like there's political, social, cultural, religious manifestations of this eternal force. And a political manifestation of it is global government. It's New World Order. It's absolute authority, control. You gotta eliminate human decision making. Like I said, the thing I wanted to talk about, like I already did, is how he says, you know, you'll be lost in howling, looking for your own kind, but you'll never find them. The city is your cage, and Chronos your keeper. Like I said, it's going to take some serious character. Like, no joke, man. It already does. It already does. To maintain, like, and we don't support each other, so it's even harder. To maintain, like, your heart and your care and your responsibility and your belief and your faith and your hope and all that through what's already going on and through the times ahead, you know. And some of it's going to be orchestrated, and some of it's intrinsic in life, like people die. That's something that you're going to have to contend with, like the fact that time is going to kill your parents and kill your loved ones and kill your husband and kill your wife and kill your kids if nothing else does. Like, there's intrinsic suffering in the world, and that's partially what he represents. Even Christ had a moment like that. There's that famous quote of him on the cross, right? Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, something like that. My God, why have you forsaken me? So even the ultimate sinless archetype or good representation had a moment of feeling abandoned in this world. And I've shown you so many times with so many different examples on how the god of this world is Satan. And it makes sense that the world in this anime is owned by the Chronos Corporation. It always makes sense. He's dressed in black, and it's just like, it never ends, man. I don't know how people don't see this stuff. Like, this is real. Anyways, man. You know, there's some stuff that he says too, like the attack on the school is easily orchestrated by us. There's little remarks like that, and, you know, I'm not going to speak on, like, staged shootings and stuff, but obviously that's something that has happened and potentially can happen, but obviously sometimes bad things just organically happen also. It's not always like a conspiracy. because those forces exist within us. So like sometimes people just go out and murder. Sometimes celebrities really do just overdose. They're not always murder, but like that stuff's definitely in the realm of possibility of it being orchestrated, because the name of the game is to get control, and there's a certain dynamic that they understand. It's called problem, reaction, solution, the Freemason motto. There's also a positive way to look at it, but there's a nefarious way to look at it also. And ordo ad chaos, order out of chaos. When there's crisis or chaos or problems, people cry out for security, and security is like your justification for seizing more power and control and restrictions on people's lives and surveilling them and all that. And obviously we saw that with things like 9/11 and the Patriot Act. Obviously we see that with like a shooting and talks of gun control. It's an obvious dynamic pattern that exists in reality that they understand, and they're magicians, they're wizards, they're using it against us. They use it as a tactic to power grab. Government uses crises to scare the population into submission. And that's not like modern history. Like that's like people think a false flag, the idea was born on September 11th. Some guy just came up with that. That's an idea that's as old as time. I think the name false flag actually comes from like sailing boats, like basically pretending you're somebody that you're not to gain their trust and then attacking them. And there's so many military groups, there's entire huge billion-dollar budgets that are dedicated to making war through deception, and that's basically what a false flag is. It's like there's multiple layers to it. It's like get people support so they can attack the people that you wanted them, that you're blaming it on. You get more money from it, higher taxation. Oh, we need to go to war. We need these new security things, more control, more surveillance, and the public will not only not fight you on it, they'll be asking for it. And there's that Ben Franklin quote, something like, he who gives up freedom for security will in the end have neither, something like that. And yeah, that's true, because these guys gain control of the civilization, and in this case, the world, and shit always hits the fan, it always becomes murderous, it always becomes genocidal. It's not going to be any different. That's because it's fundamentally anti-human. It's based on anti-human beliefs. I think, man, at least at the end of the day, from what I've observed, and I don't see how you could think anything good would come out of that. Anyways, to me, again, just another obvious Saturn rules the planet thing. And the highlight of this was him saying, you're not going to be able to exist here. And we're seeing that with internet censorship. That's just a tiny microcosm of what this guy's talking about. And, like, let's say a certain attitude runs the internet, a certain group or a certain mentality runs the internet, and you're good and you're truthful, you won't be able to exist here. It's kind of like the primary reason why Christ was killed in the first place, because he wasn't compatible with their bullshit, to put it bluntly. And the same's going to go for us, man, and I already feel that way. A lot of it's my own fault for being, like, outcasted, but I'm telling you, as soon as I started to talk about this stuff and change my values up and try to talk about things of substance and not post a picture of, like, a beer in my hand or whatever, yeah, man, it's not socially palatable to do this stuff. It's not politically palatable to talk about this stuff. It's not economically so palatable or beneficial to talk about this stuff. So I'm doing this because I honestly think it has great meaning, and I just feel a responsibility to do it. Anyways, thanks for listening, guys. That's all I have to say. Let me know what you think.